In the heart of this town, where the blue-collar folks roam, you'll find a scene that makes the everyday soul.
Welcome back, everyone, to the podcast. And a huge welcome back to a good friend of the show, a former PBA regional standout, the one and only Eddie. It's always a pleasure to have you in the booth, man, especially when we're diving into some truly wild bowling history.
Rod, it's an absolute treat to be here, truly. Thanks for having me back. I'm genuinely excited about today's topic because honestly, when you first brought it up, my jaw just kinda dropped. It's one of those legendary stories that it almost sounds too good to be true, you know? Like something out of a movie.
Oh, absolutely. Because today, Eddie, we're talking about something absolutely unparalleled in the annals of professional bowling, specifically the PBA Senior Tour. We're discussing a grand prize that literally included a house. Not just a car, not just a boat, not just an elite trip to Europe, but a whole, fully furnished house along with a cool $20,000 in cash. I mean, where do you even begin with that kind of prize package?
It's unreal, Rod. Truly surreal. When you think about the typical grand prizes in any sport, or even on those classic game shows, it's usually vehicles or vacations. But a house? Like a literal brick-and-mortar house with a roof and everything inside? It just screams ultimate jackpot. It makes those Price is Right showcases look, well, modest by comparison, doesn't it?
That's exactly it. You hit the nail right on the head. You know how on The Price is Right, the big prizes are usually a brand new car, maybe a sweet boat, or that luxurious elite trip to Europe? This, Eddie, this was like the granddaddy of them all. This wasn't just a prize. It was a life-altering, set-you-up-for-retirement kind of event for the winner. We're specifically talking about the PBA Senior Tournament of Champions and the Senior World Open, held at the Villages, a massive retirement community in Florida.
The Villages, right? I'm familiar with the name. It's this enormous, sprawling community specifically designed for folks 55 and older. Loads of incredible amenities. I remember reading about it. Golf courses everywhere, shopping centers, top-notch medical facilities, and, crucially for us, 2 dedicated bowling centers. So in a way, it makes a certain kind of sense that a community like that, catering to that demographic, would sponsor such an incredibly generous, almost over-the-top prize, especially for the Senior Tour. It's a perfect alignment.
Yeah, exactly. And this wasn't just a one-off thing. Dave Sutar won the 1999 Senior Tournament of Champions, taking home the house. But then they did it again, in 2000, for the Senior World Open. The winner, Roger Workman, also got the $20,000 and that fully furnished home, valued at $100,000. It was an absolute spectacle, broadcast live on ESPN2, with the lanes actually set up outdoors in the Village's town square by Hedden Corporation. Can you even imagine the atmosphere of that?
Outdoors? Okay, now that's another layer of complete wildness right there, bowling outdoors on live television. For a house... I mean, we've seen some unique venues for professional bowling over the years, but that truly takes the cake. The sheer setup alone, installing those lanes in a town square, dealing with the elements, that must have been a logistical marvel, but credit to the Villages and the PBA Senior Department for dreaming something that big and actually pulling it off. It definitely created a massive buzz, I'm sure, and brought a lot of eyeballs to the Senior Tour.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, Eddie, I've got to admit, I didn't even know about this event when it happened in real time. This wasn't something I saw live. I only stumbled upon it much, much later, probably around 2016, when I was just flipping channels and caught a rerun of the 2000 Senior World Open Final on ESPN Classic. It just popped up, and I remember being absolutely glued to the screen thinking, what in the world is this craziness? This is incredible.
See, that's how some of the best discoveries are made, right? You're just randomly exploring, and boom, a piece of forgotten or unknown bowling history slaps you in the face. It's funny how these iconic moments resurface years later, but when you really step back and think about it, as undeniably amazing as that prize was, you couldn't reasonably expect the Villages to hand out a house every single year, could you? It was a fantastic, eye-catching promotional idea for the short term, but not a sustainable model.
No, you absolutely could not. It was brilliant for that specific moment in time, that particular era. It definitely put the Villages on the map in a very unique way for the entire bowling community, and it gave the Senior Tour an unparalleled, almost unbelievable hook. But yeah, if they were giving out houses annually, the villages would quickly transform from a retirement community into the villages of bowling champions, which, while cool, probably wasn't their long-term business model, you know?
And the sheer tax implications alone for the winners. Imagine winning a house valued at $100,000 plus another $20,000 in cash. That's a significant financial event. You'd need a good accountant just to figure out the logistics of claiming that. But let's dive into that 2000 final, Rod, since you got to witness it in rerun form. What really stood out to you during the match, beyond the obvious grand prize at stake?
Man, so much caught my attention. It was the final match between Roger Workman, who eventually took home the house, and Gene Stuss. But what really truly stood out to me, almost as much as the prize itself, was the commentary, particularly from the legendary Marshall Holman. Now, I love Marshall. He's an absolute icon in the sport. But I gotta say, watching it, it suddenly felt like he might have had a slight inkling of pulling for Stuss a little bit more. It was very nuanced, but it felt present.
Oh really, that's quite an observation. You'd think, especially with a prize of that magnitude, the commentators would be ultra-neutral, almost clinically observing, just letting the drama of the game unfold without any perceived leanings. What specifically made you feel that way about Holman's commentary?
Well, on more than one occasion during the match, Holman was really focusing on the specific mistakes Workman was making, even as Workman was somehow managing to bounce back from them with clutch shots. And then, even more strikingly, during the post-match interview, he was still kind of pressing Workman on those very same mistakes, talking about how he had overcome them. It just seemed a bit pointed, you know, like he was almost surprised Workman pulled it off despite what he perceived as flaws in his game.
I definitely get that vibe. Sometimes, a commentator might lean into the overcoming adversity narrative, especially for a big win, but if it felt more like a critique than a celebration, that's a completely different atmosphere. Especially in a championship match with those unbelievably high stakes, it could certainly feel a little off-kilter to the viewer, and I can only imagine how it felt for Workman.
Exactly. And here's the absolute kicker, the thing that I felt Holman was almost entirely omitting throughout all of this. The entire event was being held outdoors, in Florida, underneath a blazing, constant afternoon sunshine. The intense heat, the oppressive humidity, the inevitable perspiration, all of that was undoubtedly a massive, undeniable factor in that entire stepladder finals. Workman himself, during that post-match interview, seemed to minorly take exception to the implied criticisms, stating himself, quite directly, that his hand was getting sweaty.
Ah, that absolutely changes everything. Outdoors in Florida in October. Even in October it can be absolutely sweltering down there, easily 85-90 degrees with oppressive humidity. Sweat, sun glare making it hard to see the pins, potential wind gusts affecting ball motion, oil breaking down differently. That's not just a minor variable, it's a huge, constant challenge. And to have Holman focusing so heavily on mistakes without fully acknowledging those brutal, unforgiving conditions, that's incredibly tough. I mean, no bowler is going to openly complain when there's a house on the line, but it's got to be physically and mentally draining.
They certainly weren't going to complain given the prizes they were competing for, right? Workman even said something profound. I was sweating out there. I do not know if it was from the heat or the amount of money, which honestly is probably a combination of both. He also recounted how he didn't have to make as many adjustments as some of his opponents, throwing pretty much a straight ball, while Stuss was throwing more of a hook and getting his ball wider, which suggests Workman's simpler approach might have been an advantage in those conditions.
That's a real testament to Workman's game and his ability to adapt under immense pressure then. When conditions are that unpredictable and wild, sometimes the simplest, most consistent approach is indeed the best strategy. Less variables, less to go wrong. And Stuss, being more of a hook player, would absolutely be more susceptible to those subtle changes on outdoor lanes, the oil patterns shifting, the sun baking the surface. It all impacts hook potential significantly. It truly sounds like Stuss was having a genuine struggle to get comfortable out there.
He really was. Stuss, who's from Allen Park, Michigan, was quoted saying he could never get lined up right. He explicitly mentioned that the final game found the lanes much different from when he practiced on them earlier, needing to move 5 or 6 boards over just to find a consistent line. He was incredibly gracious about it, though, which I thought was amazing, saying, "There are no excuses, Roger bowled just wonderful, and he deserves it." But you could tell it had to be deeply frustrating for him, especially sitting around for an hour and a half until his turn to bowl in the final match.
That's a huge factor too, Rod. Waiting that long, having your muscles cool down, then having to try and find your rhythm again on lanes that are physically changing under the hot Florida sun, that's an unfair disadvantage for the later bowlers sometimes, even if it's part of the stepladder format. But hey, that's the game, and Workman still had to go out there and execute under the same sun. And he absolutely did, ultimately defeating Stuss 244-209 in the final game.
He really did execute. Workman, the West Virginian, put together an incredible string of 7 straight strikes after an open frame in the second. Stuss, on the other hand, frustratingly started with an open in his very first frame. Workman also had to rally intensely in his earlier matches that day, needing strikes in the final frame against John Hrixina and then again against Bob Glass. The article recounting the event specifically stated he had to strike out in the 10th to capture the victory against Glass. This guy absolutely earned that house and that 20 grand.
Talk about being clutch under pressure, needing strikes in the 10th frame to advance not once, but twice, before even getting to the final match. That truly builds character, and it definitely prepares you mentally for the unimaginable pressure of a house on the line. He sounds like a true competitor, someone who thrives when the stakes are highest. And the contrast you mentioned, Stuss from the colder north, Workman with that distinct southern accent from West Virginia, it just adds so much more color and personality to an already incredible story.
It really does. It just paints a perfect picture. And Workman, after winning it all, had perhaps the most amusing and memorable closing comment. He said, with a big smile, "I guess Judy Sutar has got a new neighbor." Referring, of course, to Dave Sutar winning the 1999 event. So his wife Judy would likely be living in her prize house. I just love that. It was such a human, funny, almost understated moment amidst all that incredible, high-stakes tension and celebration.
That's absolutely brilliant, a perfect witty cap to such an unbelievable event. It truly shows he had a fantastic sense of humor, even with all that adrenaline still pumping through him after winning a house, and he truly deserved it, man. From what I recall, Workman was a legitimate, respected player, and he actually owned a 16-lane bowling establishment himself in Kenova, West Virginia. So this wasn't just some hobby for him, the man lived and breathed bowling, and suddenly, he has a brand new, fully furnished home in a retirement paradise in Florida.
Yeah, exactly. He came into that year having earned just over $119,000 in his career total. So this single prize essentially doubled his entire career earnings in one fell swoop. He mentioned he came into the matches feeling relaxed, and once he managed to slow down everything, his game just really came together. I guess that slowing down was absolutely key to overcoming not only the intense heat and the pressure, but maybe even those implied critiques from the booth.
It's all about finding that calm amidst the storm, isn't it? That mental fortitude is what separates the good from the great, especially in a high-pressure, physically demanding environment like that outdoor tournament. And it's such a heartwarming detail that he immediately called his wife, Kathleen, to discuss their future plans for the house. You know, that's the kind of moment that truly transcends bowling. It's a deeply human story about a lifelong dream unexpectedly coming true for a dedicated athlete.
Totally. His wife had actually visited the villages with him on a previous trip, so she was already familiar with and enjoyed the area. It wasn't just some random house in an unfamiliar place. It was a home and a community they both already knew and appreciated. That detail to me makes the entire story even sweeter and more perfect, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It really adds to the serendipity of it all. It's like it was truly meant to be for them. And you absolutely have to give immense credit to the villages for putting up such a mind-boggling, unforgettable prize. Even if it wasn't a sustainable model for every year, it made those specific senior tour events legendary. They created a moment in time, a spectacle, that we are quite literally still talking about today, over 2 decades later.
That's the absolute truth, Eddie. It definitely highlights how much a truly unique, eye-popping, and even slightly unbelievable prize can elevate an entire event, drawing attention and creating lasting memories. It was a bold move, a fantastic piece of promotion, and it gave us some truly memorable high-stakes bowling, even with those incredibly challenging outdoor conditions. It honestly makes you wonder what other incredible, perhaps slightly forgotten moments are out there, waiting to be rediscovered in sports history.
It really does, Rod. It's a fantastic reminder that sometimes you just have to think completely outside the box, or in this case, literally outside the traditional bowling center, to create something truly special and impactful. What an absolutely incredible story, man. Thanks for bringing this piece of history to light for everyone.
My absolute pleasure, Eddie. And thank you all for tuning in for this deep dive into the legend of the $20,000 in a house bowling championship. It's been a wild ride and a truly unforgettable story. We'll catch you all next time.
So next time you're looking to roll with your mates, know the joy of bowling celebrates all fates, with every strike ringing out like a song in this blue-collar game. You know we all belong. You know we all belong.
From the Corpus Christi Caller-Times from the year 1996. Oversleeping costs pro. It was a case of if you snooze, you lose. Michelle Feldman missed her wake-up call Tuesday morning and missed the first 3 frames of the opening game. She finished that game with a 110. Unfortunately for Feldman, she completed the 18 games of qualifying with a total of 3,717. 4 more pins would have put her in the match play round, as Kathy Moriarty finished at 3,720 to earn the 20th and final qualifying position. All of the women except one who made the TV show in the 2 previous Corpus Christi stops reached the match play round. From the year 1998 in the Culpeper Star Exponent. No place like home for duckpin bowler. Knighting sets new house record with 210 game. For Diane Knighting, there's no place like home. It's really a lot of fun going to different houses to bowl, said the rookie duckpin bowler on the Virginia Ladies All-Star Tour. But there's no place like home. She clicked her bowling shoes together and one by one knocked down strike after strike. By the time she was complete, 6 of the Culpeper residents' 8 marks were strikes and her name was written up in history. Knighting did something that no other female bowler in Culpeper Bowling Lane's history had ever accomplished on February 22nd. She bowled a 200-plus game in duckpins. Actually, her final total was a 210, landing Knighting in the finals of the weekend tour competition at CBL. I gave up 10 pins after the first year because I like a challenge, said Knighting, who has been a regular bowler at the Culpeper facility for many years, but just joined the All-Star Tour last summer. Duckpin bowling is just a great challenge and a lot of fun. If you like a challenge, then duckpin is the game. Knighting, one of 4 local bowlers participating in the 2nd annual tour event in Culpeper, bowled an 829 throughout the preliminary rounds to qualify as the tournament's top seed. It was during that run that she broke Connie Jenkins's previous house record of 194 in duckpins, set approximately 6 years ago, according to Culpeper Bowling Lane's owner Bobby Boggs. It's fabulous what she did, Boggs said. I've never bowled a 200 game, and I've been bowling more years than Diane has. I just never thought about breaking the house record, Knighting said. I was just thinking about having a good game and throwing a good ball. As the other bowlers cheered her on, Knighting bowled strike after strike. She eventually earned herself a reward from the National Duckpin Congress for her efforts. I don't think Diane knew what she was doing, but the other girls were aware of what she was doing, Boggs said. By bowling 96 pins over her pre-tournament average of 114, Knighting became only the 3rd bowler in the house's 20-year history to receive a ring from the Duckpin Congress, honoring her for her performance. I was more excited about winning the ring than I was about the record, said Knighting, who was sponsored during the tournament by Tony Tharp of Tony's Body Shop. Knighting, one of 40 bowlers to participate in the event, lost in the finals to Christy Mattern, but proceeded in establishing herself as Culpeper's top duckpin bowler. Her name just may be written down in history forever, according to Boggs. I very seriously doubt it. The record will be beaten unless Diane beats it, Boggs said. From the Potomac News from the year 2005. Jones wins 3rd career PBA National Tour title. Tommy Jones of Malden, South Carolina, became the first Professional Bowlers Association member to win 3 National Tour titles this season when he won the PBA Cambridge Credit Classic, hosted by AMF Babylon, New York, Lanes, February 23 through 27. It took a total pinfall of 2,002 or higher for the 9-game qualifying round, a 222.44 average, for the top 5 non-exempt members to advance to the round of 64. 5 non-exempt members advanced since Pete Weber withdrew himself from the event.
The top amateur advancing was Alex Cavagnaro of North Massapequa, New York, who finished the 9-game qualifying round in 4th place with a total pinfall of 2,090. Cavagnaro averaged 232.22. In the round of 64, the athletes bowled 14 games of qualifying in 2 7-game blocks. In the rounds of 32, 16, and 8, the finalists competed in a single elimination best 4 of 7 games match play format. The 4 remaining pros advanced to the TV finals. The format changed in the round of 4 to the standard head-to-head 1-game format. In semifinal match 1, Jones triumphed over Chris Barnes of Flower Mound, Texas, 258 to 212, and in semifinal match 2, Tony Reyes of San Bruno, California, defeated Patrick Girard of Quebec, Canada, 237 to 202. Barnes and Girard each picked up $10,000 for their third-place finish. Although Reyes started the title match with a strike, he got tapped, leaving a single pin standing, that is, in his 2nd, 4th, 8th, and 10th frames, and he just couldn't keep pace with Jones, who was in the groove. Jones began by rolling an 8-bagger and never looked back. Jones was victorious over Reyes 266 to 217 and was presented the $40,000 first-place check. "I didn't have the ball reaction today like I did on Friday night," said Jones, who won the 2004 Japan Cup and 2004 PBA Denver Open. "There are so many things to think about. I caught a couple of breaks early. When you start striking on TV, you get numb." Reyes took home $20,000 for his second-place finish. There were 3 perfect 300 games rolled during the tournament: Tommy Jones, Brian LeClaire, and Tony Reyes. From the year 1982 in the Fort Pierce Tribune. "Doesn't get mad, she gets perfect." Paula Carter's grand 300 game lifted her back into contention. After 5 games, Paula Carter was mad. After 6, she was perfect. The 31-year-old Carter, needing a big game to stay within striking distance of the leaders, Thursday, rolled a perfect 300 game to highlight the early rounds of the $27,000 Fort Pierce Classic, this week's Ladies Professional Bowlers Association tournament at Fort Pierce Bowl. For Carter, who is married to ABC Hall of Famer Don Carter, it was a first. She had never before achieved perfection in a tournament. Her 2 previous 300s, 1980 and 1981, came in league play at Kendall Lanes, which is owned by her husband. "It doesn't get any less exciting the 3rd time, I'll tell you that," she smiled afterwards. "I was a little calmer, I think. I was nervous, but I wasn't so nervous that it affected the last shot I made." The growing afternoon crowd was hushed as the left-handed Carter approached the line for her 12th ball of the session's final game, but exploded when the last pin fell. "You're always afraid of coming through that last ball either too slow or too fast," Carter said. "You just try not to think about it too much, but you obviously can't go up there to the line the same way you normally would, not with your legs shaking. I just tried to look at the target and throw the ball." The rest of the 26-bowler B shift stopped so that Carter could make her final attempt, a gesture for which she was grateful. "I kind of waited to make sure there wouldn't be anyone else on the lanes around me," admitted Carter. "My peripheral vision is very good, and I have a tendency to get distracted at times. So I'm glad the other girls were real nice and let me go. If at that point I wasn't going to roll a 300, then I wanted it to be my fault. I didn't want any outs." She didn't need any. Her final pinfall for the 12 games was 2,608, good for 8th place in the tournament. "I had just come off a pair of lanes that I had no carry at all, and I was mad," she recalled. "I just wasn't getting any help at all. But I decided I wasn't concentrating hard enough, and I needed a big game to get back up with the leaders. But I certainly wasn't thinking of throwing a 300. The perfect game only did more to enhance the attention paid Carter, a two-time BPAA U.S. Open champion. Her husband, who left the management of a now-in-progress PBA tournament to his Kendall staff, at least temporarily, to see Paula bowl, and mother, Josephine Sperber, also witnessed the 300. When you're a bowler, you first wonder whether you're capable of a 300, Carter said. When you finally get one, you then begin to wonder if you can do it again. And if you get two or more, you start thinking, maybe this is going to happen every now and then. I guess your confidence just gets better. But Carter, who owns a pro shop at Kendall Lanes and substitutes as a teacher in the off-season, admitted she thought at one time in her career that a 300 was impossible. About a month before I actually got my first 300, I had a 299 in a tournament, and had thrown it perfectly on the 12th ball, but left the 6 pin, she remembered. I thought that if I couldn't do it then, I would probably never do it. She got sweet revenge when, on the 12th ball, she got a Brooklyn strike, hitting the wrong side of the pocket to cap the first 300 effort. That's the thing about bowling, she marveled. You can do everything so perfectly and still not get rewarded for it, or it can just be the opposite. In golf, if you hit the ball perfectly, it goes where you want it to, in the hole, and it's simple. In bowling, that doesn't apply. Anything can happen. I think that's what makes it such a difficult game on the professional level. But at least for a fleeting moment, it was too easy for Carter. I think I may have an advantage, she said. It seems like I concentrate better when I'm throwing strikes. You'd think spares and open frames would be the time to really concentrate. But I do it on strikes. I guess they give me an incentive. If I get a double-double, then I see how many I can get. From the year 1971 in the Daytona Beach News-Journal. Youth charged in bowling ball slaying. And this is a press release from Bay City, Michigan. An 18-year-old Carrollton, Michigan youth was arrested and charged with murder Wednesday in the death of a Detroit woman who was struck by a bowling ball while riding along I-75 just north of here. Michael E. Wildfong appeared before Bay County District Judge Paul Harvey on an open charge of murder and asked for a hearing. A hearing was set for March 10, and Wildfong was held without bail. Wildfong is charged in the death of Mrs. Marion G. Getch, 49, of Detroit, who was killed last Saturday while riding in a car driven by her son William, age 21. Authorities said she was killed by a bowling ball, which was thrown from an overpass and crashed through the windshield of the car, striking her in the chest. Eugene C. Penzian, Bay County prosecuting attorney, said he had been contacted by an acquaintance who indicated he had talked with some people who were on the overpass when the bowling ball was dropped. On Tuesday, these witnesses were interviewed by the prosecutor's office, and a warrant was obtained as a result of information supplied by these witnesses, Penzian said. The witnesses indicated that the dropping of the bowling ball on the passing car was deliberate. From the Flint Journal from the year 1989. Last frame strike wins for Albee. Mike Albee of Indianapolis rolled a strike in the final frame of the title game to capture the Professional Bowlers Association $150,000 Showboat Atlantic City Open Saturday with a 195-182 decision over Curtis Odom. Albee, who earned $27,000 for the win, was trailing Odom by 8 pins in the 9th frame. In the 10th, Odom could have rolled 2 strikes plus 1 pin to wrap up the victory, but he left the numbers 3 and 10 and failed to convert the spare. I was just hoping he wouldn't strike in the 10th. All I wanted was a chance to win. When he opened, I realized I had an even bigger chance to win, Albee said. Here's another in the line of the bowling hints from the Dr. X Bowling Clinic from the year 1997 in the Daily Times. Tip of the week. This week's bowling tip of the week is about bowling ball maintenance. This is the age of reactive resin equipment, featuring cover stocks that show noticeable wear after only 10 to 15 games and require resurfacing oftentimes within 30 to 40 games. Most bowlers, however, fail to take care of their equipment because of cost or uncertainty about whether sanding will ruin their ball's reaction. So, the next time you go bowling and your ball doesn't seem to be reacting the same as it did when it was new, take it to your local pro shop and have them adjust it for you. From the Staten Island Advance from the year 1978. Semez will keep rolling along. The lanes were the same and, you can be sure, the ball was too. Defending champion Tita Semez was ready for last week's Miami stop on the Professional Bowlers Association Tour. It was last April when Semez, a non-winner on the tour for 7 years, arrived in Miami thinking about making bowling a weekend pastime instead of a weekly pro grind. "I was going to give up. Really I was," said Semez. "It was all so frustrating. I was just about at the end of my line." It looked for a while like the tour was going to give up Semez before he gave up the tour. There were 3 games left in the qualifying for the Miami event, and Semez was well down the line, on the verge of not making the cut. "I was hitting the pocket, but nothing was falling for me," Semez said, moaning at the memory. "I had to do something." All Semez wanted was the cash, perhaps make enough to cover his expenses so the trip wouldn't be a total loss. That, of course, is the target of all the bowlers on the Pro Tour, making enough to at least break even. Semez decided to switch balls and went for a caramel-colored one of 10 in his arsenal. He hoped he could snare enough pins to at least cash a paycheck, and not even dare to think about qualifying for the cut, which was 200 pins away. Making up a 200-pin deficit in 3 games seemed nearly impossible. Even the 80-pin margin he needed to erase in order to win cash seemed enormous. What happened next bordered on the miraculous. "I call it a fairy tale," said Semez. In his last 3 games, he rolled an 845 series with 279, 277, and 289, and made the cut. The series was the 4th highest on the Pro Tour last season, and after he threw it, Semez figured the rest would be easy. It wasn't. He survived several near eliminations, including losses in 5 of his first 8 match games, before walking off with the first prize of $14,000. "It was fate," he said. "And the way it turned out, well, I have to feel it was meant to be," he said. Now the Burger King Corporation, which sponsors the Miami event, has raised the first prize to $30,000, and Semez's appetite is appropriately whetted for the $150,000 event, the richest stop in PBA history. "I won it a year too soon," he said. From the year 2005 in the Potomac News. PBA honors Dick Weber with special patch. The Professional Bowlers Association has created a special patch in honor of Dick Weber. The patch will be worn by bowlers who advance to the ESPN televised final round in each of the PBA Tour's final events this season. In addition, the PBA is selling the patches to the public, with all proceeds going to the International Bowling Museum and Hall of Fame, the charity designated by the Weber family. The patches cost $10 apiece and will be available until Sunday, April 10. The patch, which measures 2 inches around, features a black background with the letters DW in white, along with a white border. The patches can be purchased only at the PBA's official website, www.pba.com. Well, I think we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks again for stopping by and tuning in to our revised format of the This Day in Bowling History podcast. As usual, if you'd like to be notified of future videos when they become available and are published, feel free to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of the videos or the YouTube screen. Have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on the upcoming Monday, and hopefully we'll have a few more enhancements to the podcast. So take care.